Welcome to the VC React podcast. Every week, we bring you insights and reactions from top VCs, reacting to weekly news on startups, VC funds, and investment rounds. In today's episode, we will talk about how and why Nvidia acquired a portfolio company of a Saudi VC firm. We'll talk about technical VCs, the startups that are considered too technical and too niche, the buy now and pay later model, and we will quickly review the graduates of the Sandbox Accelerator program. We have a great episode for you today with two amazing VCs. Saud Alsahhaf, Senior Associate at Impact 46, the VC firm that took both Jahez and Rasam public in Saudi, and Zeina Mandour, the venture investment manager at Dar Ventures, who still did not accept my LinkedIn connection request.
I did already today.
Zeina
Okay.
accepted mine this morning. She accepted mine this morning. I was so
okay.
excited.
Yes,
I
I did.
saw it and I was like, yes. What a way to start
Okay,
the day.
great. Thank you, Zeina.
It has to be 2 meetings before I accept, you know?
That's
Okay.
fair. That's fair.
Okay.
Yeah. Just to make
Okay.
sure. I totally understand.
Fair
that.
enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. In the video description, you can find more details on our guests, their LinkedIn profiles, and links to their company's website. Our weekly news are brought to you by FWDstart, MENA's top news aggregator that sends you MENA, startup, and VC news twice a week. And as always, from FWDstart, we have my co-host, Jamie. What's happening this week, Jamie?
Good morning, Ahmad. I feel like I haven't gotten good morning in a while. Yeah, let's start with why not? Let's start with Nvidia of all companies this morning. So as you mentioned, they've acquired Brev.dev. I want to say that's the correct way of pronouncing it. So they're a San Francisco-based AI machine learning development platform. So they allow you to run, build, train, deploy ML models on the cloud. And it also marks an exit for Saudi-based VC firm Nama Ventures. So founded by YC alums Alexander Fong, Ali Ahmed, and Nader Khalil. So they raised an undisclosed amount in pre-seed funding from Nama Ventures back in 2022. Nama Ventures, founded by Mohammed Al-Zubi. They focus on early stage in the MENA region, particularly Saudi. Mohammed himself, he's I guess you could say a technical sort of investor. He's self-described, I think, as an engineer turned engineering manager, turned entrepreneur, turned tech investor. And in terms of his relationship with the guys, or how he met them, I believe it was actually via YC. To the best of my knowledge, I think Mohammed met Nader during his time at YC. So in terms of, I guess, Brev, exactly what they do or what the USB is. So it's built by developers for developers. So it simplifies scaling machine learning projects. So it optimizes the GPU selection across cloud providers for cost efficiency. And supports running code on GPU servers for training and actually deploying the machine learning models. Interestingly as well, it's Nvidia's fourth acquisition of the year, so they're really ramping things up, and it seems to be tied into the GGX cloud service for enterprise AI app development. The acquisition price remains undisclosed. I do know, interestingly enough, one of their founding software engineers is actually a kind of tech influencer called Backsate. I don't know if anyone has ever heard of him, but he's pretty big on TikTok and Instagram. He didn't disclose what the acquisition price is. He's not allowed to, but he self-described it as he's now comfortable. So read into that what you will. I think their acquisitions of late have sort of ranged between 100 million on the lower end to 700 million on the higher end over the course of kind of the last 6 months or so. A really interesting founder as well, Nader Khalil. So his parents are Lebanese, so Lebanese immigrants living in or born in San Diego. And then relocated to Albuquerque, of all places, in New Mexico. His mother was I believe, a nuclear engineer or something along those lines. But Nader was actually a really, really early YouTuber. So he was actually creating YouTube videos when he was maybe 10 or 11. So this is pre-Google acquisition YouTube. And he was making videos teaching Arabic. So when he was 10 or 11, so he was teaching essentially American children of immigrants how to speak Arabic. So there's a particular video of him that's still accessible from 17 years ago of him teaching the Arabic alphabet. And funnily enough, the influencer that I mentioned, Backsate, there's a really interesting story whereby Backsate's father actually met Nadir when he was 10 or 11, or recognized him in a cafe in Albuquerque, and asked him would he tutor his sons. His sons were also, this particular father was Lebanese. His sons couldn't speak Arabic. He said, would you be able to teach my kids Arabic? And he did. And lo and behold, multiple years later, that particular father was actually head of, I think, the robotics department in a university in Albuquerque. And that's actually how Nadir developed the love of robotics and all things sort of software engineering. And it kind of came full circle in that actually was an angel investor in Brev. And his son then went on to be the first software engineer to work for Brev later as well. So I thought that was just really remarkable. So
well, Jamie, how did you get all this information?
I know there's a podcast. I went down the rabbit hole of this one because I was like, what's the connection here? So there's a really good podcast. I'll include the link. You can take a look. Backstage's really interesting as well. So go give him a look. Some really insightful sort of Gen Z tech software engineer influencer type things going on. But yeah, remarkable story.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Jamie. Although this is not a big acquisition, but this tells me mainly two things. First, how a technical VC can see the value of a technical solution. We've seen many technical startups over the years struggle raising capital because VCs would tell them, hey, your solution is too technical for a small niche of developers. I think we've heard the story with big names now, but they're very early beginnings. Twilio and GitLab faced similar issues. I'm so happy to see a VC from the MENA region, based in Saudi, who invested in such a technical startup very early on. So that's one thing. The second thing is, as you mentioned, Jamie, historically, Nvidia is not a big acquirer. They don't acquire many companies. But in 2024, they acquired 4 companies. And those 4 companies are related to developer solutions, cloud services, etc. It means that Nvidia wants to compete with AWS and Google Cloud for cloud services, especially when it comes to AI cloud services. What do you think, our guests? First, on the technical VCs and investing in technical founders, and maybe what Nvidia is trying to do with these acquisitions.
As you mentioned, it's quite exciting to see an acquisition happen backed by a local investor to us. I think the main difficulty with technical startups or technical investors is that you really have to look at it from a market perspective. I mean, if I'm building a product here and I'm only offering it to local players, you can start to see where maybe that becomes problematic. But I mean, if you're offering a solution that anyone can use, I think those fears sort of go away. Especially if a VC such as NEMA Ventures, they always pride themselves with being, let's say, technically focused. Doing hardware or other sorts of interesting plays. No, it's great to see.
Yeah, especially Mohammed Al-Zarbi is also a coder. He used to code back in the days when he lived in Silicon Valley. And when he saw the solution, he was, it clicked with him because he faced that problem himself. I read an article about how the company started. It didn't start with a solution for AI or GPU utilization. Right, it is not now. They actually pivoted. They wanted to solve a very specific problem for a specific customer. When a developer runs their code on their local machine, it works beautifully. But when they push it to a QA or production environment, it never works. Brev.dev gave developers consistent development environments for each of their projects. It's similar to Docker, but for development. That's when NEMA Ventures decided to invest. Mohammed Zarbi is a technical VC, and he understood the problem immediately because he faced it himself as a developer back in the days. But when AI became mainstream, many developers wanted to develop their own models. Now, there are multiple GPU cloud. It takes time and effort to set up a GPU, set up and configure your GPU instance on those clouds. set up the software environment and dependencies. They wanted to help in solving this problem. So this is basically the new pivot of Brev.dev that attracted Nvidia. Zeina, what do you think about this investment or this acquisition?
Definitely, there's a different way you can look into it related to, you see, either for a technology acquisition or for an IP acquisition, or there's a potential of something definitely not related to the market expansion. I highly doubt this is one of the reasons, because they've already been into the market, and it's a product driven. Back to your saying that it requires a technical investor to invest in a technical startup, and luckily for them that Nama Ventures is already understand the tech, and that's why they have put money and they support it. And doesn't have to be per se any company I invest in that go to the unicorn stage, because this is the perception. It is whatever the amount it is a good success. People need to get liquid and they need to exit in a way or another. I think this is important because liquidity pour more money into the market. So I'm happy to see more successful stories like this for a strategic acquisition, either from a multinationals or even from a local players or from a competitor in other markets come to expand in the specific markets, whatever reasons it is. I'm happy to see that this type of technology and product driven and innovation coming from our side of the world is something that we should be proud. This is a success story from a multiple aspects, acquisition wise, from a technology development wise, and I hope to see more of such ideas and innovation, because we always see a MESO model or a successful model in the Western world, and we try to localize it in our region. It's great to see an actual innovation happening, and this is not innovation for our world. It could fit. It's a technology. It could fit to different markets as well. I believe that we see more on the upcoming time, that more technical ideas or more product driven ideas will start to develop in our side of the world. Than you see, I'm not saying the other business models are bad, but now this is a time for more innovation and more product driven that help businesses more than retail.
Just to add to that, I think it's important to also understand Nvidia's, let's say, a strategy around this acquisition. It clearly shows, along with the other 4 acquisitions that happened earlier this year, that Nvidia is now looking towards software as a way to continue vertically integrating their solution. When they started the program of offering GPUs, I believe they were arriving disassembled, and people who were buying those GPUs quickly realized that they could fry their GPU if they just assembled it incorrectly. And the important thing is Nvidia realized that they actually needed to find a solution to that and started shipping ready assembled models. And I think this is the next step of this. This is the evolution. They're realizing that now access to GPUs will soon become commoditized. The demand, if you just look at the usage on these nodes, it's just increasing. And so I think Jensen even mentioned it in their last annual report that acquisitions will continue or start to be more of a, let's say, a bigger part of Nvidia's strategy moving forward. And I mean, they are sitting on a huge cash pile, so I mean, it makes sense.
I fully agree. They're trying to cover more software than hardware, and it's not sustainable for them to focus only on hardware. And we've seen that proven by the acquisitions they did this year. Great. We have a lot to cover, so let's move to the next story. Jamie?
Yeah, let's go for it. And this is, I think, Ayman Asawi's second appearance on the podcast. I think Connect Money. Did we discuss them?
Yes,
God, it could have been the first week, I think, nearly. So it's quite a while back. But I know that we did mention Lucky One at the time, as well as another startup that he was intimately involved in. And lo and behold, here they are. They've raised $3 million in a convertible bond funding round to expand their credit platform and also to facilitate entry into new regional markets over the next 2 years. Already present in Egypt as well as Morocco. I believe Saudi is in their sights. I think they previously mentioned they were keen to expand there by 2023. I don't believe that's happened, so slightly delayed as far as that's concerned. So the funding round saw participation from existing investors, including Lorax Capital Partners, KEM, Disrupt Tech Ventures. In terms of the previous funding. So they have raised they raised a 25 million Series A back in 2022. So to date they've raised over $50 million. So quite substantial. Lucky One was started back in 2019 by D Squares. That's the other startup that Saud was involved in. So that was an Egyptian loyalty and rewards solution provider. Initially, Lucky One started off as a product of D Squared and operated under its umbrella for 2 years before it was then launched as an independent entity in 2019. Essentially, Lucky One founded as a consumer product to tackle the financial problems people face when they're making payments. So the product has now evolved into offering a physical card and credit in the form of installments on shopping with its partners. It works with a merchant network of 20,000 local and international stores. I think there's 13 million registered users, and they've issued 300,000 cards to date as well. The intention is for the startup to be profitable by Q1 of 2025. And as mentioned, they're going to be using this new funding to expand their credit services, as well as targeting regional expansion over the course of the next 2 years.
Well, Jamie, you mentioned the intention or the goal to make the company profitable. What I'm seeing in the market is many of those companies are struggling with profitability. The buy now, pay later companies, even the huge ones, the ones that got a big investment round or successful IPOs, it's still struggling with profitability. So, Zeina, what do you think? What's different about Lucky One from other buy now, pay later companies?
Full disclosure that I was with my previous job, we were one of the investors at Lucky, actually. So I know, I have seen, we were part back then from the 25 million round. I cannot say 100% what will make them profitable or not, but I think let's discuss the evolution of the company, how this started. When it started was at the back of their mind, they wanted to be a fintech company, but when they started with what they understand and what they know, and this is how they leverage on the D Square experience, because when they started as a discount card or something that I subscribe you as a retail, because this Squared is a B2B model, loyalty program for businesses mainly, that to offer to their customers. So it was not Lucky or this Squared not the one who acquired the customer. When it comes to Lucky part, it is the retail part of the business in a way or another. And they started to at the back of their mind, they know that they want to offer financing to their customers, but they wanted to make sure, because this is how they learn from other people, to see how they will assess the customer or how they will give them a credit in a way or another. So they studied their consumer behavior through their card, because I have a card and it gives me access to a discounts on a specific merchant list. So they know what I buy, how much money I'm willing to spend and all of that. So they start to have a profile, and hence based on that, they can give a credit facility later on once they decided to do that. And they understand the behavior. So it's not the other way around, because when it comes to other fintech companies, they give a credit facility right away. They do definitely risk assessment and they profile the clients and everything. But however, they start to reassess based on the consumption once they get the facility. But when it comes to Lucky, they know the behavior before giving the money. So I think they give them a leverage in a way or another to be able to de-risk their portfolio of or outstanding loans in a way or another to their clients. And at the same time, it is part of the network. So the money is coming in and out within the chain of their merchants in a way or another. I'm not sure it's open now for other people to use it or outside of the network or not yet. But maybe this gives them a head start that might be able to be profitable or not. Again, the question is related to how much money they it's like the debt that they use it off the balance sheet, or they have a credit facility, and what's the pricing this is put into this perspective. And this is the challenge when it comes to cash flow.
When I look at the founders' profiles, it seems that there are 3 founders. One of them was with D Square, like 3 founders and 3 companies. There's D Square, there's this company, Lucky, and there's also Connect Money.
Yes.
It seems confusing. 3 team members, 3 companies. They're still all working at all 3 companies. What's happening behind the scenes there? if you know.
Yeah, okay, definitely D squared. I don't think Ayman is any more involved or whatsoever. Maybe he was part of the founding team, but I recall definitely no one will invest in the company if his time was not dedicated purely to Lucky. So I recall when we did invest, and this is even before our time, he was fully dedicated. Maybe he's part of the board or still have shares with D squared and all that, but it is fully dedicated to Lucky. So this is something for sure. It is the case, and all the management team are fully dedicated to Lucky. When it comes to Connect, I think if this is the one you're referring to, is this the card as a service? I'm not sure if this is the company you're referring to. If it is one. If this is the one, it is a subsidiary within Lucky. So they did a strategic move for that because they have seen an opportunity and decided to do it. But it is within. It's like creating a sub brand or another one of the subsidiaries for Lucky. But this is how they segregated the two entities from D squared to Lucky and whatever underneath.
So, what do you think?
I mean, this is a financing company, right? So I mean, when we're talking about profitability, you're really looking at, what does their delinquency rate look like compared to, the loans that they're giving out. Now, as you were mentioning earlier, I mean, globally, buy now, pay later has been struggling. I think in the region we've been faring slightly better due to, let's say, lower cost bases. But I mean, financing businesses as a whole have been doing pretty well, even locally here. I mean, if you look at Extra with Tasheel and MENA, these are companies listed on the Saudi Stock Exchange. Their figures, it's a matter of expansion, right? And what's interesting about this article, I mean, they're raising $3 million into 50 that they've raised previously. So it's interesting. I'm just trying to understand the dynamics behind this round and how it came to be. I noticed that I think they're all existing investors who have followed on. So I believe that the investors have a high degree of confidence that the company will be profitable. And as you're mentioning, this is a theme that we've been seeing a lot recently. People need to be profitable because I think investors as a whole have been less eager to deploy capital. So obviously it's in the founder's best interest to keep this company alive. Now, you mentioned the point, Zeina. You were mentioning, let's say, selection or credit scoring of some sort. And I think this is such an interesting question in the context of fintech as a whole. I mean, I know I have my personal view. I think you don't really score people, as an individual. I don't think, any of the existing fintechs are able to score, Saud individually and give him a certain credit score. What ends up happening, especially in the context of buy now, pay later, is they will group cohorts of people, right? And typically these cohorts have the same behavior depending on which merchant they're coming from. I don't know why that is. It's not very clear. But I mean, this is ultimately, what ends up happening internally at these companies. So what I'm curious about is, how will Lucky continue to expand their, let's say, network of merchants, right? Because I think this is the most important thing. You want to churn the merchants that are doing poorly in terms of delinquency rates, and you want to retain and expand the merchants that are doing well and returning the money that is being borrowed. So that's an important fact. The second part is I wonder if they're expecting to raise any debt, because I mean I couldn't find any mention of debt being raised, which is let's say an integral part of any financing business.
To the expansion point, Saud and Zeina. So where are they going to expand? I mean, geographically, because in Saudi we have Tabi, Tamara, Madfour, Kadi, Spotty, and many others. In Dubai we have Cashew, Postpay, People. Even in Kuwait, which is such a small market, we have a company that's doing that, EasyPay. So the market is flooded with these companies. Where are they going to expand? And if they're not expanding in, let's say, geographic markets, Are they going to expand in their services? What other revenue streams are they going to get apart from the merchant fees or consumer interest? What other areas can they expand into?
Definitely, that's a great question, Ahmed. And actually, Mohammed Jalal, sorry, the CEO of Extra, was talking about this just a few weeks earlier on a podcast. He was mentioning that, as a business, you need to keep let's say, rebuilding yourself and finding what your value proposition to customers is, because what works today won't necessarily work tomorrow, won't necessarily work, the year after that. And so I think, at this stage, I mean, Lucky is approaching profitability, but as you mentioned, they need to think about how they can reinvent themselves. What is their value proposition that, maybe these other players can't offer? And I think they have a good positioning, given that they're, let's say, the theme around them is customer loyalty, right? I think they can find some interesting ways to make this play in their favor.
Okay, so actually, if we back to when one of the questions was the relationship between the three companies and one another, I think the story of the founders, it is a big part that could help in success rate. I cannot say they will be profitable, not 100%. When we invested and when I was part of my previous job, this was almost 2.5 years ago. So definitely a lot has changed. And this is based on the information back then. But the story, if you look at the founders, the story when they have, I believe, majority of the corporates, at least in Egypt, if not the region, are using Dsquare for the loyalty program. Okay, so Dsquare, it is like a software entity that give a product or give solution to, let's say, Vodafone in Egypt or different banks in Egypt and tell them, the customer, we can help you collect the cashback points, and they can use it to already an approved list of merchants, so they can get discounts. So it's a full solution. And then this team took this idea and make it to a retail, which is simply that I have managed to build a list of merchants that I can get my customer discounts there. Why not offer the service to an individual, not a corporate anymore? So they went, Zeina can simply issue a card, which is called Lucky, and I pay whatever fees for it, and this give me a discount on a specific merchant list. On top of that, when they start to evolve, it tell you a cashback to encourage people more to buy. And this is not any sort of financing yet has been introduced at this point. So the more I consume and I take a discount with the merchants, because now they act a business development arm for the existing merchants, and they push Zeina to go buy, because the more points I use or discounts, I can get cash back to ensure that I stick to the card. And then now they understand the behavior of Zeina. Zeina, she goes by with average ticket X. She goes to this type of merchants. So now I can understand her profile. And by the way, they invested a lot in the AI. I believe there was an interesting, impressive team already. We're focusing on how to create this credit scoring mechanism. This is part of it. So they had the information, they had the data, and they started to leverage this data to actually finance, and they start to do testing, because whatever product we see now, they were testing it. So they start to unlock limits for a specific clientele that were very active, and they can do a profile to see how it will work. So some people were the lucky ones that they get like a cash on their card to use it for, and then they can put the money again and all of that. So I think the evolution, or maybe this will help them succeed or not, I don't know, but at least they have learned from other people, and they started to leverage whatever they know to be able to put a financing product, because they know the client, and they already have the merchants. The merchants, they don't provide them any financing. They finance the client, the individuals. This is what they do. So I think this is where they are working on it. Yeah. When it comes to Lucky Connect or whatever, it's a product within the organization, and you see they work on the branding and all of that. So we will see how it works. I think I'm back to your question when it comes to the debt. I'm not sure. I think it's very challenging, at least if you're an Egyptian company, to find the debt option now, or maybe they already have. I'm not sure.
Great. Well, Jamie, let's move to Dubai. What's happening in there this week?
Yeah, let's go to the Sandbox, if you will. So the Accelerator program, Sandbox, It is part of RSA Capital. So they're the VC investment arm of the Dubai Integrated Economic Zones Authority. So they announced the graduation or conclusion of their 4th cohort this week. So each of those 7 participating startups, they've received $150,000 following their participation in the program. They were selected from over 1,500 applications. I'm not going to go through each of the startups, partially because I'm still not entirely sure what some of them do, despite having read the press release and trawled each of their websites. So
you know
in
what,
terms
Jamie? Let's do that. Let's do actually that. I'll share my
let's do
screen.
it. Let's do it.
Let's get reactions. Just 1-2 sentences from each one of our guests about those companies.
Yeah.
And by the way, a quick note here on the Sandbox. Sandbox is the name is usually used for fintech companies when they want to experiment on a specific environment within the central bank or a bank. But they're using that name for their accelerator program, which is interesting. I mean, I don't know, any comments on this?
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say that that's exact same comment. The Sandbox is usually for you to test in let's say, some sort of regulatory environment before, any licensing would happen. Maybe the license doesn't exist yet, but, you're figuring it out alongside the regulator. So it's interesting that they chose this. I mean, maybe there is some sort of regulation or legal compliance. I mean, I'm not too familiar with.
Maybe in an upcoming episode, we'll host one of the team members
definitely.
from there and ask them about the philosophy behind the name. Okay, so this is the Accelerator website, and this is the cohort 4. It's 7 companies. So what we wanted to do now is just open these companies and get first reactions from our 2 VCs here. We know you don't have enough information about them. You don't know the team. You don't have the pitch deck. You don't know everything about them. But in general, what do you think about the company's product? The first one here is Jobscape. It says Jobscape transforms freelancers into AI-empowered superheroes, revolutionizing productivity and redefining the future of work. What do you think about the elevator pitch here?
I mean, sounds spot on. It sounds like a recurring theme we're seeing these days, creating agents, AI agents to help, streamline your work and help you complete more work. I like it.
Zeina?
Yeah, I think we start to see, regardless of being AI based, I feel sometimes it's consumed a lot, the AI word, but definitely is supporting, because the gig economy, in a way, not either freelance and all of that, this is something that starts to increase, especially with the remote work structure and all of that. So I think there's a lot of tools starts to develop into this domain, and it looks like a red ocean, but it's not. There is a lot of tools that could be used, and there is not something that's purely limited to one thing that I use in my work, either as a developer or whatever it is, the job that I do. So definitely, if the product right, they are working in the right market, that will grow no matter.
Yeah, and I'm looking here at some of their AI assistants, they call them, for freelancers. The first one is business plan generator. I'm not sure if this is really relevant for them, but this one is TikTok script generator, brainstorm ideas generator, text audio generator.
It's just a bit fluffy. I don't know.
Yeah,
Look, I just would love to know it differs to something which an existing LLM that's accessible can do with regard to plug in, whether it be via OpenAI apps. Like, is this just a data wrapper sort of on top of an existing LLM? And look, I don't have that information. I'm not overly familiar. That's just something I was struck by, I think, when going through it. I think I've seen most of these AI assistants, which they've mentioned in terms of the solutions, as something which is already accessible. And look, I don't know, but that was my sort of my gut instinct was.
Seems the value they're aggregating all of these in one place for the freelancers and customizing them for freelance work, maybe. Anyway, next as Lisan. lisan means tongue. It's translated to English into tongue. So let's see lisan. It says Lisan is a deep tech startup focused on bridging the gap between global AI advancements and unprecedented languages, starting with Arabic. Okay, so elevator pitch.
So actually, I'm going to cheat here. So I actually know Noor Al-Asadi pretty well, founder of Lisan.
Okay.
I actually really like what he's building. He's been building it for quite some time now, and I think he's building something real there. From what I understand, what he's trying to do is, create. I don't want to say create the Grammarly of the region, but it's really, however complex the English language is, I would say that the Arabic language is at least, maybe twice as complicated. You need more context, to use the right words. And so I think what he's doing here is genuinely unique. And I think the work he's doing, the focus, I should say, that he's putting on this, I haven't seen anything like it yet, even if we look at, the other global, language models. So
So I need to correct myself here. So lisan can mean two things in Arabic. It means tongue, but it also means language. It seems here it's used as in the context of language. Anyway, Zeina.
I will build to your call when we're discussing Mandour and all of that in our last, at least my last podcast, and with Aita Arabi. The Arabic content, it is not dominating the online words yet, but we see it increasing as a percent. Definitely, it's not as big as the other languages, especially English, but it is critical, and there is a lot of Arab-based people when it comes to this tool, and there's not enough competitors, and there's not enough offering to this. It is definitely an interesting move. It is, however, Arabic is quite complex as a language as well. So I'm not sure how I think the accuracy level, because this is the challenge when we see either Google Translate or whatsoever, in Nahw especially, it is quite, I cannot say it's advanced, but with the tashkil and all of that, it has a different structure than the other languages. So I hope it's all about the accuracy level, and definitely something will move or improve by time, especially if they are AI based. But it's impressive that you see such a tool, and it's the right time for it now. With again, if it's like a plugin that I can use with the ChatGPT when it's developing a content for me, and it could later on. I make sure it is the right way from a grammatical point of view as well. I think this integration will elevate and help a lot of people developing content.
Yeah, especially for Arabic language, as you both mentioned, it's very complicated. And if AI cannot help in Arabic, nobody can. So hopefully they can do it.
Yeah, and there's definitely a lack of. I wrote about Arabic AI relatively recently for one of the deep dives with FWDstart, and there is a distinct lack of solutions like Lisan. Like whilst looking into it, I mean, it was one of the only startups that I actually came across that was dedicated to this domain or field. And yeah, to your point in terms of accuracy, Zeina, yeah, it is interesting in terms of how. Obviously, international models, be it Claude Llama or ChatGPT, their comprehension of Arabic and ability to understand that, whether it be the 25 different Arabic dialects, obviously their performance sort of paled in comparison to their understanding of English. So I think it is great to see a solution like Lisan, and obviously we've G42's JICE, and I know Huawei have their own Arabic LLM that they've developed and released recently as well. So yeah, I think Lisan is exciting.
I don't think we have time to cover all of them, but let's take two more. HeroGo. HeroGo provides a food tech subscription platform which allows consumers to access surplus food from local farmers and wholesalers at reduced prices, promoting sustainability and reducing food waste. What do we think about this company?
Actually, as a concept, it's interesting. However, from the look of it, as a sustainability, it takes the mark. When it comes to sustainability, it takes the mark that the farmers or whatever the market when the product they use, especially the fresh product, they have to find a way for it. But I think logistics wise, I think this is something that I will be keen to know how they do the operations. Because if they have their own fleet, this is an issue. If they are depending on the farmer or whoever owns the market whatsoever, does it make sense from unit economics, pricing wise, that they will have this burden of logistics? I think it's all about the pricing and how much money that's being evolved to operate such a product, because it might be easier to, I know it's bad, but throw it away. So it has to make sure that the logistics to deliver it and it makes sense for the farmer or the market side. But
I know a friend who tried to do something similar, I think 10 years ago. I don't know what happened or why he stopped. He stopped doing it, and it didn't really work. I don't know the details behind why he stopped and why it didn't work. But yeah, I've seen this being tried before. Jamie, Saud, what do you think?
I mean, it's a novel idea. I think on the outside it looks like it's a noble cause, and I mean, reducing food waste is a real issue. I mean, in the region, globally too. And finding ways to, let's say, combat this is definitely let's say useful. My issue is, again, here's where we go back to maybe sort of like the copycat model. Is it good? Is it bad? I haven't seen this model being validated quite to the extent where I feel comfortable maybe investing in something like this.
I think it is well established in a European and a US context, but I don't think even those startups, I think Misfit in the US context have raised. So I'm writing about food waste at the moment. So I think they've raised surplus of 300 million, and they merged with their direct competitor. I still don't think they've reached profitability. I think they've raised a Series C at this juncture in the UK. I know you've Too Good To Go. They're present in multiple different European countries, and Olio are similar, and not either of those, to the best of my knowledge, have reached profitability to date either. I guess the only other kind of not competitor directly in a regional context maybe is Baraka, Saudi-based startup. I know that they're kind of more concentrated on surplus food and meals as it pertains to from restaurants and grocery retail, as opposed to this sort of surplus vegetables that maybe don't meet the aesthetically pleasing mark. So slightly different in that sense, but I think totally valid point in terms of the business model.
For the sake of time, I'll just read the description of the other four, and I'll ask the three of you to comment on whichever you want to comment on. So Thrive is a SaaS B2B platform used by retailers to boost sales, employee engagement, and minimize cost by leveraging big data and workflow automation. Upteam transforms construction project management with AI-driven optimizations, delivering timely, cost-efficient outcomes by automating schedule generation and delay corrections. Maybe
this is
Zeina,
one of
you
our
want to talk
portfolio
about
companies.
this?
No, it's our
Okay,
portfolio company. It's our second investment.
We want to learn more about this then. Quiros is the search engine for people, automating talent discovery and making hiring decisions scalable for both job seekers and employers. And last but not least, Zoya. Zoya is a modern faith-based investing app that helps users build a Sharia-compliant portfolio with confidence. So I'll start with you, Zeina, and tell us more about Upteam.
Okay, actually, Upteam is an interesting story. So the two founders of the two main founders of Upteam, they're actually a father and a son. And the father is a professor in Canada, in Waterloo, if I'm not mistaken. And he understands the construction industry very well, and he developed one of his research paper related to AI and how can you use it into optimize the project management process of the construction, and at the same time helps in if there's a changes in the plans, how can I do it, what I can accelerate the timeline of the project, what I can do parallel and what I cannot do it because it requires, for instance, time to make the concrete solidify and then all of that. And interesting, when it comes to the idea, there is another company called Alice Technologies, which is it's a US-based company, and they raised a good substantial amount of money, and they developed the same concept using the research of the founder of Optim before they decided to do Optim as well. So, and we looked at Alice Technologies as well as a company, by the way, and it was not as user-friendly as we thought. And when we looked at Optim, and this is the source of the technology, because they're the one who did all the research and the paperwork and all of that. It was Dr. Higazi and Tariq Higazi. And then when it comes to Alice Technology, which is the competitor, they used the paper or the methodology to develop a product. So we were happy when we look at the Optim and we tested it, because our process, we test the product. Even we are a consultant, but we do a lot of project management when it comes to construction to help them to develop the product. They have a concrete product. They're still in the MVP phase. So they are been testing with multiple clients, and I believe they will start to generate revenues. So this was our second investment ever. We're very proud of them. And I think what they're doing, it will help mainly in the project management of the construction sites, and it will help in estimating costs. And when I start to bid for a project as well, and one of the biggest challenges when it comes to claims, that I need to see how much time that I have put in the project and how much money do I need to claim to the client, and all of that is something that they're still working on. And collecting the data from the site is quite challenging. You never know what's happening on the site. There's a lot of ideas related to geo surveying and all of that, but nothing really accurate. They actually develop an interesting product, and I don't want to burn whatever the plans is, but to be able to collect the information from site as well is something that.
And Zeina, did you invest in them before they got into Sandbox or while they were in Sandbox Accelerator?
Yeah. No. I believe I'm not sure when they received. No, we are the first investment ever. So this was back
before. Before they got into the Sandbox Accelerator. Okay. So which one of these four attracted your attention, negatively or positively?
Sure. I mean, Curious sounds interesting. I mean, a platform for job seekers. I think, there's a lot of activity happening in this space, globally and, regionally. So I think, sometimes you sort of start noticing these trends of companies of a certain, let's say, business model or solution coming out around the same time. So this is an area that, I'm personally looking into, and I think there's some quite exciting things. So, yeah.
Okay, founders of Curio, reach out to Saud. Jamie, which one attracted your attention?
I did have to say I found Zoya quite interesting as well. I think they're New York based fintech as well, but I don't know if I'm correct in thinking they've over 100K investors potentially on the platform already. But I think a really interesting concept and something I've been learning more about recently as well. So it'd be exciting to see how they get on.
Well, that's a wrap. Thank you so much, Saud and Zeina, for joining me and Jamie today. It was really a lovely episode. We reviewed some startups, and we never did this before. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thanks so much, guys.